Hi everybody, my name is Melanie Manke and I welcome you warmly to the fourth and last Init Live report in this series. Today it's all about electromobility. Thank you for joining us. Electrifying bus fleets is becoming increasingly important for public transport companies. Many new factors have to be considered and decisions to be made. Today we will take a look on all important aspects and challenges of electromobility and see how you can overcome them. Our experts, Team Manager Sales, Johannes Käppeler and Account Manager Stephan Brunner will give you a brief overview on Init's eMOBILE solution. So Stephan, Johannes, it's your turn.
So thank you, Melanie, for this kind introduction. We are very pleased to communicate with you via this new format. Of course, we would have preferred to talk to you directly at our booth at IT Trans, but nevertheless, we are happy that this option is available so that we can get in touch with you. Now we want to take you into a dialogue with us in which we want to outline, on the one hand, the new challenges coming up with electromobility, but on the other hand, of course, we want to show you how we can support you in a targeted, efficient and calculable way with our software solutions from Init's eMOBILE portfolio. So as I mentioned before, there are new challenges coming up for PTOs and PTAs, and now I believe that therefore software will play a central role in electromobility. Johannes, do you agree?
Thank you, Stephan, for your kind introduction. I totally agree with you. I believe that software is a key factor when it comes to electromobility. If we have a rough look about the parts which are impacted by electromobility in public transport companies, it starts at the planning, scheduling system, block and duty planning, but also depot management system and charge management system become more and more important. And in the central system, in the ITCS system, as we call it at Init, the range of the electric bus becomes more important when it comes to tracking the vehicles. And looking at this whole range, maybe starting at the electromobility planning part, I would like to start there because having a look at the vehicles right now, the range of the buses is lower than the blocks which needs to be served by the buses. And therefore it is important to decide what kind of charging strategy I take. So I can take a depot charging strategy or a net charging strategy or even a combination of both. But this is a strategical question, and I would like to point out the importance of charging elements besides if you plan at a depot or on the street, I say. Because having a look at the cost, what will be the impacts on your costs? So I will draw a little example here right now. If you think you run 4 electric buses as an example, and you send them out in the morning for your peak all at the same time, and they're running out of battery all at the same time. So what you need to do is you take them back to the depot and you have to recharge them all at the same time. And for this time where you charge the buses, you need additional buses in order to save other trips because public transport is not over at the time when the buses comes into the depot. So this would have an impact on additional blocks you need in order to serve all the trips. On the other hand, if you take them all at the same time into the depot and charge them all at the same time, you create an enormous charging peak at this time. And this is not only, has a very huge impact on your operational costs, since you need to take a dimension for your energy supply for those buses which are charged at the same time. And the higher this energy supply is, the more you need to pay to the energy supplier. Because what the energy supplier says is, I do guarantee you a limit over the day, and you tell me what the limit has to be. And if this limit is very high, then the energy supplier tells you, okay, you have a high demand and I guarantee you for the whole day that I can guarantee you to supply you with this energy. And this is what makes electromobility very, very expensive. So if you can avoid in the scheduling phase already creating those peaks, you can save real money, not only on your infrastructure, but also in operation afterwards.
So saving operational costs are already starting in the planning process.
Absolutely. So you start with the planning process as you do always in public transport. It always starts with the planning process. But in this case, the cost-saving potentials are tremendous and are very high. Because today we talk about a small fleet of electric buses which are integrated into your system, into your fleet. But imagine you will change 25, 50 or even more % of your fleet with electric buses, then this question becomes very central because it takes a huge space in your calculation. So very important question at the beginning right now. Yeah.
Yes, and you talked at the beginning about the infrastructure. So the infrastructure is a very high investment cost at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So one new step coming in with the electromobility is to simulate before getting the real operation.
Absolutely.
So maybe you want to talk a little bit more about the simulation.
That's what I try to say by you have a plan how your electric bus fleet increase over time. This will take several years, maybe some have less years, some have more years, but it takes some time. And you can take this time right now to simulate what will happen if there is 50% of my fleet electric buses. Mm-hmm. And you can, you have a tool right now in order to make a decision on the best charging strategy, yes, on your cost estimation, and also on your impacts, how many vehicles do you need in the future? And if you might need more vehicles, you also need more drivers. So you need to take this into account right now that you can really make a decision and have a good look into the future, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. But planning is a central part, but I've talked also about depot management and charge management. Yes. What are the challenges there? What is new in this process?
Yes, you are absolutely right, Johannes. So also in the depot management, new challenges are rising. So by now, the main task of the depot management is on the one hand to allocate the parking slots to the vehicles, and on the other hand, to allocate the vehicles to the blocks. So in other words, the depot management ensures that the vehicle leaves at a certain time the depot. And now with electromobility, a new dimension is added. It's named the state of charge. Mm-hmm. And our software solution, the eDMS, is able to handle very precisely this new complexity. So the new task of the depot management is also to ensure that the vehicle leaves at a certain time with a certain state of charge, which is necessary to serve the planned blocks successfully. So this is the new task. And now we are at the stage where, for example, the bus or the vehicle is leaving the depot. Mm-hmm. So now there are two scenarios. Scenario one is everything is going according to plan, and scenario two is there are deviations, so the reality. So
incidents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So first, maybe we want to highlight some more the scenario one. Mm-hmm. So in scenario one, the vehicle is leaving with the planned state of charge and is returning with the calculated state of charge. So in this example, the depot management has not really to intervene because the charging plan you also talked about before is not affected yet. But we have also to ensure that the operation of the charging process is run safely. And for this case, we have the software solution Mobile Charge. Mobile Charge is monitoring on the one hand the charging process itself, and on the other hand, it helps the operator to reduce the operation cost you talked about. Mm-hmm. This is possible while shifting these charging peaks in the charging window, and of course, if it comes to an interruption of the charging processes, Mobile Charge is able to fully automatically restart the charging process, that it's guaranteed that the vehicle gets the necessary state of charge to run the blocks.
Okay. So in your first scenario, everything goes according to plan. I leave the depot with a certain state of charge, probably full.
Yes.
I serve the trips, come home, and I know, according to plan, 25% is left, or less, or 20, I don't know. And then you have a plan which bus gets at which time recharged.
Recharged,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So this was scenario one.
Yeah.
And maybe we can also say about mobile charge that in the charging plan, maybe mobile charge is considering when a vehicle has to be preconditioned. So it's very important that, for example, in the cold winter, that the vehicle is getting heated on a certain temperature before leaving the state of the depot.
And without using the energy from the bus, but from the station.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so otherwise, they would get a very short run. Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And I don't want to sit in a cold bus anyway.
Yes. So exactly. And on the other hand, scenario two is, as you call it, the deviations. So the planned or the calculated state of charge is not the same as the real.
Yeah. So there's an accident, an incident, you need to make a detour. Yeah.
Exactly. So also the temperature.
Yeah.
Maybe the temperature is getting colder than assumed in the beginning. Even in winter, it's getting colder, so the vehicle needs more energy to heat up the bus. And so the state of charge is lower than planned.
Yeah.
And now in this case, the EDMS has to intervene. So the EDMS has to recalculate, on the one hand, the allocation from the parking slots to the vehicles, also the allocation from the vehicles to the blocks, because
could be possible, yeah.
Exactly, because otherwise some blocks can't be driven in order to the low state of charge. And of course, the DMS has to recalculate a charging plan. So because also of delays occur to traffic, the charging window, which is necessary to charge the buses to the certain state of charge level, is not big enough.
Okay.
So
because of a delay, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in this case, the EDMS has to permanently compare the calculated and the real-time state of charge, and has to allocate the new functions.
Okay.
So, and if the charging plan, for example, is recalculated, the EDMS gives this data straight to the mobile charge, so that the mobile charge can secure the whole charging process itself. So basically what you're saying is there is a constant comparison between what is planned and what is in real time and what is real time. Yeah, okay. So that's a good point. So the EDMS has to compare on the fly in real time permanently these two values and has to recalculate the new plans. Okay, that is very interesting, because if you think about depot management system, you've been talking about allocation of vehicles to blocks and allocation to parking spots, which becomes more important when it comes to charging points. Exactly. But you have to keep in mind also that there's planned and unplanned maintenance. Sometimes you have a driver with an accident. You cannot take this bus for the planned next trips or blocks, because you need to repair it, you need to wash the bus. All this is still in a depot management system which needs to be handled. So if I get you correctly, this is actually with the electromobility, there's another dimension of complexity. Absolutely. And this is what you said at the beginning. You said your thesis was software becomes more and more important, and I guess this is what is the benefit of software. If you have a tool which is able to create those plans in the best way in order to save money, in order to make an efficient operation, and at the same time compare real-time data, adjust plans. I think this is a high benefit, because thinking of, there's some operators with 30 buses, but there's also operators with 300 or 3,000 buses. Absolutely. You cannot do this manually. Yeah, so the main aim of these software solutions are to reduce the complexity for the operators. Yeah, absolutely. To help them in the daily business, to make the whole operation very smooth. Yeah. And so but you talked also about deviation, accidents. Yeah, I mean, on the road it's different than what it has been planned. Exactly. This would be our dream, that everything goes according to plans. But
also today, central site systems, AVL systems or mobile ITCS, tracks the vehicles, is in contact with the driver, and if there is an accident or if there is something on the road, unplanned scenarios, then the central site needs to make some measurements, maybe a deviation, maybe a detour, and this can also have an effect on the range. And besides those factors which needs to be screened by the dispatcher nowadays, also the range becomes a very important factor which needs to be kept on, and you need to keep an eye on that. But to keep an eye on that, what we really want to avoid is that there is a huge, rumor in the central system because the bus is running out of energy. Yeah, it does not make his block to the end, and this is what we can avoid in the planning phase again already.
Yes,
because we were talking about the range of electric buses, and that we need to implement this into the blocks and to recharge them, but also considering that the range is not only dependent on driving, but also auxiliary uses like cleaning, like air conditioning. We need to take this into the planning also into account, and also create there like what-if scenarios. For example, I create block and duty plan for a very cold winter day. And then there again, I need to have a look at a simulation. What if there is temperature decreased by, let's say, 5 degrees. You do not want to make a plan which is only drivable until minus 10 degrees, and then it's slightly colder and the bus is running out of energy. This is not possible. This is a scenario which you would like to avoid.
Yes. So when I understand you right, you want to indicate a range of temperature.
Absolutely, yeah. And you need to know the range in which that blocks are still drivable. And then this is also a measure in order to keep the effort in the ITCS very low.
So the robust planning helps the ICTS.
Absolutely. And maybe to have another look at the ITCS, of course, the range is important to track. But what we also can do is we can collect the data. We can collect the data for consumption, for driving. So we know every link from, let's say, one station A to another station B. We know the link, the length, we know the driving times, we know the occupancy rates, we know almost everything, and we know this consumption as well. And what we can do is we collect this data and feed it back into the planning system again. And then the assumptions we have taken in the planning phase for driving, heating and all that stuff becomes more and more accurate, since we know what has been in real time, and with this data we can make the blocks even more robust and resilient in order to avoid situations like I'm running out, or avoid situations where the bus gets always back into the depot with 30% of the energy, because the electric bus needs to run, needs to be on the road.
Exactly.
Not stay on the depot or somewhere else. And
so also, sorry for interrupting you, but also it's very important, as you said, for the efficient is not to allocate the electric buses to the shortest blocks.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
this is something we think is not very efficient.
Yes.
And also a scenario I talked about, looking into the future, having 30, 50 or more % of your fleet electrified, then you cannot only take small blocks, because you do not have only small blocks. There is a time where you need to might adjust.
Yes. And in this case, it's very important to get the real consumption data, so we can feed this back into the planning process to get the loop at the end and make the whole process even more efficient.
Absolutely. Stephan, we could have talked about this much longer.
Yes.
I think there are so many more questions when it comes to electromobility. Of course, we would have loved it to be on the booth, being at Karlsruhe, talking directly to you, also know about your experience when it comes to electromobility. But we're glad that we had this possibility here via a live stream. We hope you enjoyed our little conversation. We would like to get in touch with you. You find our contacts on the homepage as well. This is has been the last session from our live reports out of Karlsruhe. We've been talking about contactless payments, assistive travel systems, mobile guide solutions, and electromobility. For us, it's been a pleasure. We hope for you as well. At this point, I would also like to thank the staff behind the cameras, which you do not see, but they do a great job and they enable that we are here at the front. Thank you also to them. Stephan, for me, it's been a pleasure.
Same for me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time, and goodbye.
Goodbye.